channel. It has been some time. I've been posting videos that I already had pre-recorded before I had baby girl, but baby girl is here. You can kind of see a little peek over in the corner. She's very mad. I'm probably gonna have to hold her most of this video, but that's okay. She's gonna be 2 months old next week. 2 months old already. We kind of took a break off from filming, from doing my paparazzi business, and just spent time with baby girl. So this is not going to be any kind of formal video. We have kiddos in the next room, so you're probably going to hear some noise. Hair's just thrown up in a bun today, and I put on some earrings and a little bit of eye makeup and lipstick because we're just doing laundry today. I'm editing a video today. I have some doctor's appointments I got to call about today, so to get it all done today today, this video is going to be welcoming newborn baby girl. So I'm going to pick her up. Come here. This is Adeline Rose. Can you tell them hello? Say welcome to the YouTube family. Can you tell them hello? She is going to be, like I said, 2 months old. She was born July 3rd, 2021. She was 6 pounds, 7 ounces, and 19.5 inches long. She was born early. I wasn't due until July 24th, but if you looked at my past video, I'll link it down below. I had not gestational, I had preeclampsia, so we welcomed baby girl. Look at her little face. We welcomed baby girl into the world early for my safety and her safety, didn't we? Did you come early? So baby girl came early and we were never more excited. We had to go to the hospital, be there at 4:30 or 4 o'clock. I think 4, maybe 4. Yeah, 4 on Saturday morning, July 3rd. And I went back for my C-section at 6 o'clock, maybe a few minutes before. Epidural was placed so smoothly. That was what I was most worried about, and it went so great. I did get really hot during my C-section. So as they had already pulled her out, and as they were stitching my uterus back up, so when you have a C-section, they pull your uterus out, stitch it back up, and put everything back. And I guess when they did that, I went like beet red, like fire engine red. And my blood pressure was fine. He said it did drop a little bit, fairly low, but it wasn't concerning. He did put something in my IV, and then I started feeling a little better. But I think it was just anxiety. Our last baby was a NICU baby, so I was scared to death that she would be, and lo and behold, she ended up in the NICU. She took a couple extra days in the hospital, didn't you? Did you want some extra attention? Oh, it's a big yawn. So as they had got her into the world, everything was happy. I heard her cry. She was a feisty one coming out, but she was 6 pounds, 7 ounces, so she was fairly small. And the doctor said she like went to turn around and go back in, is what Adeline did. So when she went to pull her out, yeah, she like turned around. She got her out. They took her over to like the little whatever bed to start examining her, listening to her, get the fluid off of her. And then the neonatal nurse practitioner came over to me and said, we're going to take dad and baby to the NICU. And like my heart just stopped because we've been through this road before. I wanted to break down in tears, but I just kept going, like doing like Lamaze or whatever, like breathing through whatever it's called, the breathing through your labor breathing, just to calm myself. And I didn't want to get worked up about it. I knew that God was in control and he had everything planned out regardless of what we had planned. So we did that, and she went to the NICU. My husband Russell, Daddy followed you over, didn't he? Daddy followed you over. And this NICU at our hospital is amazing, amazing. There were like 2-pound babies in there, and I'm thinking, I really don't have it that bad. There's mamas, well, there's some mamas that never even showed up like to see their babies, but that's a whole nother story. But there were small babies in there, so we didn't have it as bad. But you know, being in the NICU never is easy. So she ended up in the NICU. Are you looking at mama? Are you looking at mama? And what it was is she swallowed some fluid, and they thought, well, she'll probably be out of here within 6 hours. She can transition out of the NICU. And so they kept her in there. She's smiling. Kept her in there, and then I waited around. I had my husband keep going down there. When he was, after the fact that I got to my room, had him keep checking on her, and she just stayed longer than we had planned. So after my C-section, husband went down to the NICU with them. He ended up coming back. I had already been rolled to recovery, so as most places are, the hospital was short-staffed that day, so I didn't have to stay in recovery 2 hours. I only stayed in there an hour, and then did my other hour back in my mother baby suite, and which I was happy because I love the mother baby suites at our hospital. They're so nice. But we got back to the room, and that's when I started having my husband check on her, which before we got to the room, I was able to go through the NICU. They rolled me on my hospital bed after recovery, rolled me through the NICU. I stopped and seen her, and then I broke down because by this time, I'm going to insert a picture here. She had the tubes in her. She had the cannula tube, the oxygen tube, and I think that's kind of the same thing. And she had a feeding, like a tube that they could put fluids down, like milk, you know, when she worked up to it. So seeing your baby like hooked up to the heart monitors and all these tubes, it just brought on so many memories. So, as I was saying, yeah, I broke down when we got to the NICU because it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming seeing other babies as you're passing through the hallway. You know, you're looking for the room that your baby's in, which they had told my husband the room number, but I didn't know yet. And we got there, and I seen her, and she was so stinking sweet, so tiny. Like, I just wanted to, like, pick her up, and I could hold her one hand. She was that small. All my other babies were 8 pound, 2 ounces, 3 ounces, and 4 ounces. So they were 8'2", 8'3", 8'4". So this was our smallest bundle of joy, and she just was smaller because she came into the world a little earlier, didn't you? You got milk coming out of your mouth. So after we stopped to see her, I went back to my room. So went there for the first time to the mother baby suite. I was wore out. By this time it was like 7:30. No, it was more like 8:30. Probably 8:30, 8:39 maybe. Wore out. I was ready for a nap. So tired. So then I just kept having throughout the day, having my husband check on her. I was starving by this point, so I think around 11 or 12 I finally ate. And then the next couple of days we stayed in the hospital with C-sections in Indiana. I think it used to be you had to be required to stay 72 hours, but this was my 4th baby. I felt good. I wanted to go home and see my other babies, so I think we left after 24 hours, which was the earliest I've ever left. Probably shouldn't have. I was still really sore. I told the doctor I was fine because I'm stubborn and I wanted to be home. But we made it home, and there's nothing worse than leaving the hospital without your baby, because we went in to have a baby. She was here, but she was not able to come home with us, and it just broke my heart because you see all these other mamas leaving with their babies in their car seats, in their arms, and my baby was still there. So broke down again. This was definitely an emotional delivery postpartum. I didn't have postpartum depression. I don't have postpartum depression. I am 7 weeks postpartum now, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 8 weeks coming up. But this was definitely emotional, and this is our 2nd NICU stay, like I said. For some reason, I think because she was born early, she was so tiny, I didn't want to leave her. It was the hardest thing. But the good thing about our hospital, they have a webcam that they keep on the baby, so you can constantly, every hour of the day, see what's going on with the baby. You can see them, see what's being done, that sort of thing. We could call the nurses. Our NICU is amazing, amazing. My love goes to them. This is our 2nd time, and I don't want to do it again, but I would love to like hug their necks as hard as I could, because they care so much for those babies like they're their own. So we were able to watch her on the webcam when we got home. One of us, or probably both of us, could have stayed at the hospital with her. There is like a pull-out bed in that room, but with my C-section, I didn't want to lay on that bed. I mean, I would have, don't get me wrong, I would have done it in a heartbeat. But I also had 3 kids at home, and if you have never had your heartstrings pulled like that, I don't advise it, because it was so hard, because you got 3 kids at home, you got newborn baby in the hospital. Do you stay at the hospital? Do you go home? Because I know that my older kids understood, I mean, my husband, or, you know, daddy would be home, but I wanted to be home to see him too. And yeah, we made the decision just to come home, recoup, and rest, and go back each day to see her. I think there's one day we didn't travel over there, and that's because we had to get groceries, we had to cut grass, and I wasn't able to drive myself, or I would have been over there. She fell asleep, y'all, that quick. So we did go back multiple times. She ended up being in the NICU 7 days, which seemed like forever. When we were in the NICU, they do rounds every day. So when they do their rounds every day, the doctor, the nurse practitioner, there's a dietitian, like a nutritionist, labs, tech, I don't know, there's like 8 people that come through to each NICU room. We weren't in a big room, we have our own personal space, which I love. I mean, I cannot rave about our hospital enough. But they would come around and do rounds. And what rounds was, they discussed what happened overnight, and then they discussed what their next plan is for that day. And I always wanted to make those rounds because we got to connect with the doctor on one-on-one, see what plans were for her. And each day the plan was to keep lowering her oxygen. So when she swallowed that fluid, the amniotic sac fluid, some of it came up, but she was just having a hard time grasping that she needed to breathe, like oxygen on her own. So I think with her being a preemie, that's, I mean, it's normal. She was born 3 weeks early. She's smiling. Hi, honey. Hi, honey. Which I had, if you go back a couple videos, I had a steroid shot. I think that was in my last video on that pregnancy update. But I had a steroid shot twice to try to get her lungs to develop early, because we knew that she was coming early C-section. And I wouldn't do it any other way, looking back. She's so cute. You're so stinking cute. So with her lungs not fully, I mean, they were developed, but I think that was part of the problem why she was having struggles learning to breathe that oxygen on her own. Are you wanting to look at them? Do you want to say hi? Oh, you little pukes. She is definitely a spitter, aren't you? Say hello. Hello. So ended up 7 days later, we brought her home. I'm going to insert that picture here. Super cute. My husband and I are so excited. We were so excited that day to bring her home and meet brother and sister and brother. Let me get a spit bag. Here we go. This is better. This spits all the time. This spits all the time. Yeah, this spits all the time. So we were so excited to bring her home and meet brother and sister and little brother, who he was on the fence about it. He, you know, didn't want to hold her, but he did come home and sit by her. He wanted to look at her. So he wasn't like, I don't want nothing to do with her. But he wasn't excited, like extremely over the moon like the other two were. So, he's warmed up now. He smothers her with so much love now. We have to watch him, because he would definitely love up on her like crazy. Came home with her that day. My parents came over and they cooked supper. Mom made us pizza lasagna, which was delicious. I was just so wore out from the week before. This is, I guess we came home on a Saturday because she, yeah, born on Saturday. So she's in there 7 days. So we came home on a Saturday. We had church the next morning. They advised us, now, you know, you do you, don't judge me on this. This is my kids, my life. We're gonna do what we want. But of course the doctor advised us not to take her out for a couple weeks. Don't go to church, you know, with all this stuff going on. And we did. And I don't regret it. We have brought our kids home. Hi, Sissy. Sure, I will. So we brought it to church the next day, and I don't regret it. We've done that with all of our babies. We just kept safety, cleaned hands, that sort of thing. And then it wasn't much longer. Let me look it up and see. She ended up getting sick. So we took her to the, little man back there. We ended up taking her back to the doctor on July 19th because she just kept, like, I thought it was projectile vomiting. I guess it wasn't technically projectile, but it was far. She's very lethargic. She wouldn't hardly stay awake to eat. I couldn't get her to take any bottles hardly. I think she took maybe 4 ounces that morning. Maybe 4 total that afternoon. She was taking like 2 ounces at a time, 2 to 3 ounces at a time. Anyway, she hadn't took nearly as much as she always does. She's definitely an eater, and I noticed something was off. My mama instincts told me that, hey, something is not right. We probably need to get her in the doctor, at least get her examined. So we took her in, and she said, you are a seasoned mom, and you use the term lethargic. So I don't like that. I'm going to go ahead and send you to the ER and have them check you out. And if they need to run tests, they can get them back like fairly, like immediately, you know. And I was like, I don't want to go to the ER with all the germs, but we already had her out in public, so what's the difference? I mean, I feel like an ER is more germy than, you know, church, but probably not. We went over to the ER, and I knew my mama instinct said, hey, something's not right. So we took her in. They did get her in the room. We waited. We didn't see the doctor. We got to the ER at 6. We didn't see the doctor till probably 7:30. And he was different in himself. He acted like I was crazy, and he's like, well, I'm just trying to find out all the facts, and you say projectile vomiting. I'm like, yeah, I mean, she shoots it. It goes far. And so he's like, well, when you say projectile, it should be able to shoot across the room and hit the wall. I'm like, well, it's not that bad, but it's definitely not her normalness. So he checked her out. We did a ultrasound. They thought that her intestines might have been like tied or kinked or something, and then we were gonna have to be transferred by ambulance to about an hour and a half, 2 hours, probably hour and a half away to another children's hospital. They would have to do surgery. They're like tossing all these what ifs around in my mama brain because I'm postpartum. My hormones are crazy, you know, just emotional with all that went on in the beginning anyways. And so we had to do this ultrasound that while she was eating, she did an ultrasound to see if fluid was being pushed through her stomach to her intestines, and ended up showing that it was working. She did not have a kink. So on the precautionaries to run some more tests to keep eye on her, to monitor overnight, they kept us overnight. So they admitted us to the peds floor, which is the pediatric floor of this hospital. Our nurse that night was super, super sweet. We didn't get to a room until 2 a.m. So we were in the ER at 6 p.m. and we didn't get out of the ER until 2 a.m. I'm exhausted. I haven't had supper. My husband hasn't had supper. Baby girl is exhausted. She's puked all over the clothes that she did have. She's soaked. I want to wash her up. I want to get comfortable. I want to take my shoes off. I want to sit down. I mean, we're sitting down in the ER, but I want to get comfortable. And she just wasn't comfortable. The ER was freezing cold. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't the ER's fault. Don't get me wrong. They were doing their job. They were being very diligent about it. They were sweet to her. But when she was in the ER, they had to draw labs. And trying to get labs, they did an arterial something. They drew blood from her arteries. It's, you know, they got it from the veins, they got it from the arteries for one of these tests, and that was so traumatic watching. I mean, it took different nurses. They ended up calling up to the NICU and bringing a NICU nurse, 2 of them down, to run these tests to see if they could get labs from her. And I tell you, I mean, getting labs from anyone is no fun, but getting them from a little teeny tiny little bitty baby arm was awful. And I mean, it's their job. It's not going to be fun. It's not meant to be fun. But watching it get their labs broke my heart to shreds and pieces. So they got that, and I guess got what they needed. So then, like, that was before we got transferred to the room. So we got transferred then. We're in our room. We're getting settled. The nurse had, like, these lunch boxes. They were, like, turkey sandwiches and chips and peaches, I think. Brought us those at 2 a.m. in the morning, and we had supper at 2 a.m. I was starving. I didn't care what she brought, and I ate that, and we ended up just, both of us, knocked out. So we laid baby girl in the hospital bed. The nurses got her settled. We fed her. We got her down for the night. And she got up multiple times that night because she wasn't comfortable. I mean, it's a hospital room. It's comfortable, but not home. But she did really good. She was a trooper. So they came back the next day. We talked to the doctor, the pediatric doctor that was on that floor. And she said she thinks it's more like she's getting in too much air when she's eating. You know, we have been trying out different bottles. And we had just got some Dr. Brown's bottles. All of my kids took different bottles. We just got some Dr. Brown's bottles, and those were going to be the winners. She's using those still today. But we thought, well, maybe the nipple size on the other ones were too big. So we stuck with Dr. Brown's, got smaller nipples. They seemed to be working. She was eating good. Everything was checking out. She's like, well, I want to keep her the rest of this day, and then we'll probably discharge you tomorrow. So it wasn't like even a half an hour later, the nurse came in and said, you're going to need to talk to the doctor again. There's been some trouble come up. One of her blood tests shows that she has a blood infection. And I'm like, what's that mean? So I asked to talk to the doctor. The doctor's, of course, making the rest of her rounds, and she came in and said she has a blood infection. It could be meningitis, and that made my heart sink because what was she? 10 days? No, she wasn't very old. She's born on the 3rd. It was the 19th. 17 days old, 16 days old, something like that. She wasn't very old. So under 20 days old, she could possibly have meningitis. I'm like, how in the world could she get meningitis? How in the world could she get this blood infection? They were going through all this different cases. Like you had GBS, I think that's what it's called, where they do that swab when you're pregnant. But I delivered C-section, so she didn't pass through my vaginal canal to get that. So I didn't think it was that infection. They were just running all these tests to make sure, rule it out that, you know, what infection it is, how do we treat it. We were looking at staying another 10 days in the hospital. And if it was meningitis, to get an IV in her, because she kept pulling the IVs out, or they would blow most of the time. They would blow the veins. We would have to be transferred to a children's hospital, transferred back, and then they would put in like a port instead of an IV. And I'm like, oh my gosh, all this stuff. I broke down in tears. I called my mom and sister. I just cried my eyes out. I asked for prayers. I posted on Facebook for all the prayers. Posted pictures of her. I'll insert one of those pictures here. That was baby girl with her little IVs. And then she had this one. And they're just heartbreaking, but she was taken care of so good. The hospital was so good. So the nurse came in later and said there's a chance that one of her tests were contaminated. So when they go in to do the artery test, they take the needle. I don't know, you have to look. When they go in to do the test, they take the needle and they put the needle in, and they have to like keep going up the artery to get a good decent amount of blood to do the test. And so they did that, and there's a chance when they pulled the needle out that there was some contamination on the skin, the needle, and somewhere in between there. Nobody's fault. When you try to put a needle in an artery of a baby, there's gonna be chances, you know, the baby's gonna move around. There's a chance just one little speck of something could get on it and contaminate the whole test and ruin it. That was a chance. There was either a blood infection or the contamination of a needle. So lo and behold, calls later, many talks with the doctor later, her test came back contaminated. So what they do is they take your test, they will run it again, so they'll make sure that no bacteria growth is coming on it, and it comes to find out her test was contaminated. So thank you, Jesus, that she did not have a blood infection. She didn't have anything. I mean, she wasn't sepsis. That was one of the issues it could have been. Because my mind was going through all of these terrible blood infections and what could happen. What if? And that brought up that song, like that song, What If, came to mind. But we are 2 months old now. She is no longer 6 pounds. I haven't weighed her recently. She has an appointment in a couple weeks. But she is a very happy girl, aren't you? Aren't you a very happy girl? Do you want to tell them hello? Can I have a Bessie? Can I have a Bessie? Tell them hello. Tell them hello. Say hi. Hi, people. Hello, YouTube family. Hello, YouTube family. You got my hair hanging on. So she is a very happy girl. Aww. Very precious baby. We are so blessed that she's here. Even the troubled roads that she went on and the little turns she took. Jesus has blessed us so much on this journey. I would do it again. My doctor actually asked if she's our last, and I'm like, I don't think so, if I can get my husband on board. We also have plans to adopt. That's a dream of ours. So I would love to have another little bundle and adopt one. Adopt a baby. Oh, it's a sleepy girl, aren't you? But she's here. She's happy. We're happy. We're blessed. The children love her. Don't you? Bubbies and Sissy love you so much, don't they? They love you so much. So I wanted to get on here and get that video out here. I know it's 2 months late. I will try and do a 2-month update if I can after her doctor's appointment in a couple weeks. But that's it. That's her birth story. I know it's all over the place, and I apologize because it's been 2 months ago and trying to remember everything. But we're thankful she's here. I hope to see her in many of my YouTube videos. I hope you guys can subscribe and like these videos. Aren't you just so sweet, bee? Aren't you so sweet, bee? You good night? You good night? Yeah. So, if you are not, please subscribe to the videos. I would greatly love to have you on this YouTube journey. It is free. It costs you nothing to subscribe. And like I said, we would love to have you along. So, thank you all for watching. God bless. Bye.